Welcome everyone. We're here at another week of perSPECtive. We are on Spotify and YouTube, Google, iTunes. Check us out on all those platforms. Give us a like over there and a review. It'll help more people find us. So that would be really great, guys. So this week in perSPECtive, a show where we talk to interesting people about interesting board games. I'm your host, Ryan Lierz, and I got my other co-host, Keegan Cole. Hi, Keegan.
Here again for another week, another adventure. I might retire soon, Ryan. I might surprise you one week. Just not show up. Just kidding. That's not going to happen.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you talked about your pension yet? Have you gotten that worked out and you ready to retire?
We have an HR department. I'm unaware of this.
It's me. Good luck.
Oh yeah, I don't trust this HR department at all.
Well, this week we got on another special guest. We got Evan Hunt, the designer of a new game, Heroes and Villains, which is going to be coming to Kickstart fairly soon. And it's a little bit different. It has not only the physical copy, but there's also going to be an entire digital app behind it. So, Evan, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's get to know you as we do with our guests normally, and just see why you love board games as much as we do. When did you start kind of getting into modern board games?
So yeah, I'm kind of I started out probably in early middle school with your traditional RPG set, right? Mm-hmm. So Dungeons and Dragons and GURPS and some other games that we get to sit around and use our imagination, right? Mm-hmm. And that drifted into sort of more traditional strategy card games like Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. I played some Pokemon. I played other variants of trading card games. And then, I've dabbled in the rest of the board game world. The hardest thing, I think, is finding the time to play other board games when you're trying to develop your own, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a couple really close friends that it's been a labor of love developing Heroes and Villains, right? My brother, my son Lucas, my best friend Alex Campman that I used to play Magic with back when we were like 11 years old. Mm-hmm. But I've had the pleasure of kind of getting into this whole board game world. We're going, Board Game Geek, and going to different cons, and mm-hmm. It's an awesome environment. People are so fun and so open and creative.
Yeah,
just fun to be in it.
So I know Keegan will be able to chat with you a lot. He's the big card boy. I too. That's kind of like early on. I guess my first board games technically then were the Yu-Gi-Oh, not that they're board games, but the TCGs. Yeah, and but I know Keegan, he has taken a real deep dive into the Arkham Horror LCG game.
Yep.
So yeah, so with your group, obviously with the whole past year, how have you guys been able to handle getting together and actually like developing this game while under quarantine?
Well, I mean, that's what's so cool about technology today, right? I think the hardest thing about developing a new game, especially one that has complex mechanics that rival things like living card games or the modern day trading card games that big companies developed, you need a robust player base, right? And you need lots of play testing. And frankly, particularly in the world of COVID, that was a very difficult thing to find. Mm-hmm. So I would say my play testing was really robust prior to COVID. I built a group of people that played, and we had a lot of prototypes, and then I kind of decided to move the game into the digital world. So you have this publishing world, print publishing, and then you have a digital publishing world. And for me, just the way my life has developed with young kids and a busy job, I found that I was doing more and more of my card gaming online and actually on the phone. And I kind of said, well, you have to work with your own strengths. I said, and so that's the world I know. And actually, I thought the premise and the mechanics of Heroes and Villains were going to work great in the digital environment. I'll talk about why. Yeah. But I kind of made the investment to take the game online. And then once I had an online app, it was incredible because I could share the invitation link with everyone, and we could get on and play by phone. And frankly, I developed, and not I, but I kind of worked on the development of an AI with the development team. And I can even play against the AI. And so, endless thousands of hours playing other people and then playing, frankly, against AI really has allowed me to kind of take the game to the next level, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys had sent us a demo copy, and we had a lot of fun with it. And we did a first impressions video, and I know you said you had seen it, and it's up on YouTube. It's funny because we in our video we kind of just chat a little bit about things we'd like to see, and of course, like right after we film it and stuff, Kate over at Antigen Games had messaged me like the full details of what's coming in Kickstarter. I was like, oh, that is a whole bunch of what we already said. So that's awesome that you guys had already been thinking about it and made us excited. And we'll keep talking about this, but I'm curious, what games do you play a lot with your kids outside of Heroes and Villains?
Yeah, so Munchkin, we got really into Munchkin. We love it. There's a new Warhammer 40K version of Munchkin, which is a lot of fun or not, kind of the old duty style, but a blast. And then frankly, a lot of different indie games when I was in the board gaming scene that we would pick up at a con and play for a while. I have a good, this sounds kind of funny, but I have a good buddy, Jason Anarchy, that developed Drinking Quest. And although, obviously the kids aren't drinking alcohol as we play, it's a lot of fun, right? A lot of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
we got into Pokemon quite a bit. For a while there. Lucas kind of got me into Pokemon, which was fun because I was a Magic player, and all of his friends were really into Pokemon. And then all of a sudden, I learned Pokemon mechanics and how I like it.
Yeah. Keegan, did you ever actually play Pokemon?
Yeah. My best friend and I, Chris, we played Pokemon, the Harry Potter card game, and Yu-Gi-Oh! A bunch as a kid. And like Pokemon for a while, we just collected the cards, but then we started actually playing the game. And I'm not envious of kids nowadays because the whole trading card scene has been a huge mess because of COVID and scalpers and everything. So it's been rough. Where normal things that cost $25 MSRP are now being charged $60 for it. So I feel your pain, TCG players. Yeah, these games are incredibly, they've been around a long time, right? I mean, a lot of TCG players, trading card game players, I mean, they started playing when I was playing. We're all 40, 50 years old now. So there's literally a lifetime of playing those games and collecting, sometimes at the tournament level. And the hardest thing about bringing a new game into the world is, players grew up learning these things over time when there weren't a lot of options. Right. And so now they don't even need to read the rule book, even though they're incredibly complicated games. Now they just, it's like second nature. I play Magic. I know exactly what I'm doing. And so when you develop a new game, your customer set, your gamer set may not have the patience
to learn a new game in that depth, or you need to enable them to learn it quickly. And yet at the same time, they're seeking the same level of depth, right? Of strategic, of deck customization and artwork and everything else.
Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned that you've been over to the cons. Which ones have been your favorite to go to?
Well, I was living in Connecticut, and I would go to Boston Fig, which is the indie gaming con. There aren't that many indie cons, right? And that's kind of where I was focusing my efforts to meet other people in the community. So Boston Fig is the big one, and then there was a Connecticut FIG where I went and played with folks, and then when we moved to Dallas, BGG Con is hosted here, and that was a lot of fun as well. I haven't done the more traditional cons, like the big cons, like Gen Con.
Yeah.
But that's what's fun. It's hard for me because I'm kind of one guy, and I got the kids, and you gotta fly. But I mean, Nettie, I think, will be at Gen Con, and that's awesome, right? I may be join them. We'll see where it goes.
All right. Well, yeah. If you're able to get out there, we'll definitely have to meet up. I know.
We're going to be there.
Yeah, we're really excited to go this year, and I've been talking to some of the other people that have also some of our other guests and seeing who else is going to go and meet up, do like a live Instagram with them, chat, see what's going on, and
I would love to. In person's always better, right?
Right. And so 2018 was my first year going, and then of course I went 2 days and was. My neighbors have decided to start working on their walls today, right now. Cool. They're like, it's literally like right here. Okay.
Like, we hear him. He's doing his podcast. Let's start up.
So in 2018 was my first year, and I only went 2 days, and all I got to do was really the exhibit halls, and I was so excited then. 2019 I went. 19, because then 2020. I was so excited to go, and then they canceled it because of COVID, and I was like, no. And so now this time I'm like, 4 days, we're going, we're definitely doing other exhibit halls and testing games, playing games. Because I definitely missed out on that aspect the first time. But so hopefully you can come join. It's so much fun.
No, I would love to. I would love to. I mean, I'd be like a kid in a candy store.
That's exactly what a bunch of adult kids in a candy store.
That's right. This should probably be epic in the post-vaccinated wake of COVID, right? You can imagine there will be a lot of people that will be really excited to be there. So.
Yeah, I know they're taking a little bit more precautions this year. I think they're a little less. They've cut down the number of people that can go this year, but I'm still excited. But what's that?
That's super cool. Yeah, super cool.
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so let's get into hearing a bit more about designing Heroes and Villains and what it's been like to work with creating an app and then working with Nettie Games to actually get the physical copy and Kickstarter going. I guess where did your initial ideas come for the game?
So frankly, at first I love comic books, right? I love the superhero genre. I love comic books. I love original super powered characters and stories, and really my love existed before kind of the Marvel universe really kicked off in the movies and everything else, and then that I think that kind of took I would say the country or the world's obsession with superheroes to a new level, right? Yeah. So I'm all on board with that, but I always found it kind of interesting. There really wasn't a game that I felt really captured, that superhero genre, that comic book genre in the trading card game environment, with a level of strategic decision making that can compete with the likes of Magic, right? And there are games out there like Marvel does the VS series. I kind of this idea was sort of starting in my head and Alex's head of trying to build a better mousetrap, right? Build a trading card game that was more accessible to new players. What you find when you try to teach somebody truly new, like for example, my son, Magic Gathering. I mean, there's rule upon rule upon rule, and you got to get your notepad out, and you got to be tracking health points, and you got to in Pokemon there's tokens and a map, and there's such a deep play set that it's really hard to get new players into it, especially for when you're trying to do like a tabletop night, which is part of this whole board gaming renaissance, right? Right prior to COVID, there was a huge push. People were getting back at the table before. And at that time, my son was just young enough that, I really was looking for something at the right level to play with him. And I just thought there was a niche in the market that wasn't filled. And so we set out to create a game with that level of decision making, with the superhero genre, but also with a mechanic set that made it really easy to just pull a deck out of the box and play, right? And then if you were having fun, then you could start mixing decks, and you could kind of build the character in as you play that you really with not only your play style, but also kind of with the thematic feel that gets you going. You're becoming a superhero or a supervillain.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I think we had quite a bit of fun with that. That each character is, you decide if you want to be a hero or a villain, and even then the villains and heroes even have their own special kind of one-time ability that is sort of like encompassing that character, if it's like the speedster or the dark magic person or the guy that's just punching everything. I thought that was really interesting. And when we played a bit, I think so I guess say you were talking about kind of not wanting some almost like counters and stuff like that you have to really keep track of. I think though something we kind of came up with, there were some characters that you kind of could like combo your abilities and get like, you use energy, get energy back, use energy, get energy back. I guess in the final release, is there going to potentially be some kind of like tracker to easily keep track? Because we kind of had to go back a couple times to make sure, like, okay, wait, did I accidentally use too much energy? So yeah.
This is a great discussion point for what we were just talking about, right? That balance between complicated and not. So we like the first sort of generation of the game was 3 energy per turn. Yeah. And I think you probably noticed there are some key parts of the game which really differentiate it. There's the deck is your life, which is really a defining mechanic, because at least you're not tracking health points, and everything else revolves around the fact that you're either depleting another player's cards or you're restoring your own, or there's also everything. You guys figured it out, although we probably need to call it out even more clearly in the rulebook. Everything is done on your turn. There's no traditional interrupts as you might think of them in another card game, where you kind of, oh, gotcha, and you do an interrupt and in magic counter spell. But other games do this. There's a good reason for that. When you play online, and if you've ever played one of these games online that has a stop or an interrupt between 2 players, it causes a lot of problems, because every time I have the opportunity to interrupt you when you play something on your turn, you need to wait for me to make a decision. And the game needs to present me with the opportunity. If I have a card that can counter your ability or can interrupt your ability, the game needs to present me with that opportunity every time. And so that's incredibly complicated in the digital environment, and it leads to a lot of waiting around. And frankly, it's complicated in the print environment too. You know, it's like, it's my turn, but you can do things on my turn. And that leaves room for a lot of interpretation and what they call the stack, you know, like different what goes on the stack, what happens first, and in what order. Right. So we wanted to make that very clear that on your turn, you can spend your 4 energy per turn to use your abilities, and the other player doesn't have to constantly interrupt you all the time. They can't interrupt you. Their turn happens next. That created another problem, because now how do you disrupt an opponent's strategy? How do you give that layer of complication that you still get to disrupt an opponent's strategy? And that's why we have a 2-part mechanic, right? You guys noticed you deploy cards from your hand, and then those cards are in play in front of you, and then you activate them. So cards are played in 2 steps, because go all in on my energy and get them out and play. Well, when it's your turn, you have the opportunity to counter and disrupt my strategy before I have a chance to totally execute it, right? And so, you know, energy, to your last point about tracking energy, you're right. It can be complicated keeping track of energy. I think what, you know, it depends on the set. Super speed gains a lot of energy because it does a lot of things in a turn. You know, that's kind of its thematic mechanic. It's you're feeling faster than the other person. So with that said, you know, I always say you can get a 4-sided die and just turn it over and track it. Maybe in the Kickstarter we'll offer 4-sided die. But that's a lot easier than keeping track of 25 health points, right? And gain and everything else. So yeah, it's hard. You know, you want to make it simple, and we really set out to design a game that did not require a pen and paper in front of you, which is not what board games do often. I mean, the board gaming community is incredibly accepting of incredibly complicated rule sets. I mean, you know, some of these games are made to sit around and play for 8 hours. I forgot to mention Sentinels of the Multiverse, right? Lucas and I loved playing Sentinels of the Multiverse, which is play together and you play versus a big boss. It's not really a player versus player game. But I mean, man, that you can do 4 hours in one play session easy. And there's trackers and counters and different types of damage and everything else. And so, you know, we decided to try and do something different, appeal with strategic depth to board gamers, but also not have that same level of complication. Really pull it out of the box, put it on the table, play in 5 minutes, and go.
So, kind of the way you were describing that is, are you then kind of almost dictating the design and flow of the game more so on the actual digital app rather than like physical copy, would you say?
So, you know, because I started designing the game on tabletop, you know, I kind of felt that for a true trading card game, if you deviate from kind of the heart of the game as a tabletop game, and you basically skip because you're in the digital environment, ultimately that's going to really limit you. I wanted a game that was transferable from digital to print and back and forth. So I'll give you an example of, you know, there are 20 superpower decks designed and in the app right now. And we're constantly playtesting them, and they've developed over time. It's a different thing to get 20 superpower decks into print. You might overwhelm a player. You're kind of giving them too much at once, and so the rule set, I guess, in short, was deliberately designed to be transferable, and that's made for some unique. You know, Heroes and Villains is a little unique in that way. I mean, a lot of games are designed purely for digital, and other games are designed purely for print, and the two don't always marry up so well. I'll give you an example. Like Pokemon online or Magic online, or even some of the living card games online are, a lot of players complain because they don't actually find them that the implementation to be that fun, or there's a lot of sitting around and waiting. Which, if you're playing a living card game with your buddies around the table, you're joking and laughing. If you're playing Magic, you're countering and having a conversation while things are going on and arguing about the rules or whatever. But in the digital world, it's you on your phone in the bathroom, right? And you're just like waiting maybe for the other person to go. And it's not that, you kind of deliberately go at it with the idea that it's going to be both digital and print. That's what I think makes your builds really unique.
Yeah. And we kind of in our first impression video, one of our things was we were excited to see the possibility of other heroes, villains coming out, and 20 is a lot. I think we played, how many did we have available? 6 originally? 6, yeah. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, do you have then a plan to potentially expand in the future where you almost come out with little packs, right, of
so we have everything from alien parasite to power armor, and I could go on and on. Vampire mutation, size control, anything iconic. The idea is any iconic superpower, you've got a deck to deal with it. And Steven's plan, and like I said, Nettie's bringing a lot of this sort of print expertise to bear, is to do 2 deck expansion packs. So they're like battle packs, and you get 2 iconic characters facing off against each other. Ocean Mastery versus Vigilante Justice, or Weather Control versus Fire Control, and I think those will be available as stretch rewards on the Kickstarter. They're already designed and play great. They all feature their own thematic mechanics, like we talked about. Super speed gains energy. Fire control, purges its own cards to get more powerful, right? And vampire mutation, the hero villain card actually flips throughout the game, so that, and you get different abilities, right? Different combos depending on what side you're on. If you're on day or night side, and alien parasite, puts its cards under other cards. It kind of infects other cards. It links to other cards. So there's a lot of really unique and fun sets to go after. Yeah. Once players have absorbed kind of the key, the baseline mechanics.
Sure.
So I'm wondering then too, since you said there's sets to go after, is it trading card game? Like, are there going to be booster packs, or are things going to be like sets where, like, if you buy this set, you always get this certain amount of cards, so more like a living card game?
Yeah, so another kind of unique feature for us is, like many living card games, I really didn't want card rarity. I wanted player, and I remember being young and just loving to go buy a pack and open it and see what was rare or not. But I think I've evolved. I think the gaming community has evolved, and although there's still a group out there, even online, that loves to collect rares, and I actually thought it messed with the core of the game. The core of the game is, no matter what you play, it's balanced, right? And so the power of your deck is more about how you've built it, and then how you play it, and not about having the lucky epic golden card that is just blatantly more powerful than the rest and unfair. Yeah. And so we're giving you, just like you guys saw in the prototype, there's 6 full up decks that are pre-designed, and you can mix and match those. I think ultimately, there's a price for mixing and matching. Your deck health is lowered by 1 every time you mix another superpower type together. So if you mix super speed with super strength, instead of a 25 card deck, you got a 24 card deck. Okay. But so there's kind of this price to pay for mixing, but ultimately experienced card gamers will learn. I think the mixed decks will be more powerful, but but the game was also designed for those pure single power decks to work very well. They have a lot of their own combos, and so I think they'll stand up in kind of a tournament, right? So the goal was you can invite your buddies over, teach them how to play quick, just like you guys did. You have 4 or 5 people, you play some different formats. Once you get used to it, you start mixing, matching, and maybe you can take it to another competitive level, you know, if that's what you want to do. Long story short, I think there will be two-player battle packs that'll be, 2 deck battle packs that will be delivered. You'll get a full 25 card deck in each. Probably won't get the play mats, right? They'll just be little battle boxes.
Right.
But what's cool about the Kickstarter is you'll actually probably at stretch goals will be able to unlock new sets if the Kickstarter.
Yeah. I guess I will kind of comment on we've chatted about Kickstarter and have some rather strong opinions, I guess you could say, on some of it. And I guess this whole the whole stretch goal thing, it's fun, but as long as sometimes it feels bad when you look and you go, oh, we didn't get a certain aspect of the game because you weren't as far. I know Keegan definitely is not at all a fan of that.
That's not what I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of things that you can only get on Kickstarter, because I know there's some things that, like, if a stretch goal doesn't get hit, then later on, maybe down the line, it will get released later just because there's more funding later on after the initial Kickstarter was successful. The things I don't like are, like, if you don't get this on Kickstarter, you'll never get it. That's the stuff that bothers me.
I totally agree. I mean, I think that would really frustrate me if I felt like I lost my one shot to get a feature of the game. And so whatever stretch goals there are will be available later, right? I mean, what you're doing with a stretch goal is not a Kickstarter exclusive. You're just basically accelerating that feature of the game coming to print.
Right.
So I have 20 superpower sets built now. I would love to bring them all to print, but it's too much too soon, especially when you got to put a package together that you want to deliver, right? And the weight of the package matters, and you want it to be expandable, so you want the depth of the game to grow with the player base. Right. If you overwhelm everybody with 20 sets now, it's one thing online when maybe you're just reading through it and having fun, but I think, when you're staring at 400 or 500 cards, it's like, well, it can be hard.
I think that's a thing for people in general with card games now too. Like games like Pokemon and Magic, I think they do rotation cycles, right? Where only certain sets are allowed in competitive play unless you play like a certain variant that lets everything come into play. Right? I know like Yu-Gi-Oh is hard because there's just a ban list where only specific cards are limited in ban. So you would technically still have to get everything at some point. Or just like going in, like me, I didn't want to get into another card game because I didn't want to have to worry about the collecting aspect of it. And then I bit the bullet on Arkham, and then I liked it. And then I was like, oh shit, I have so much Arkham stuff to get now. If I want to have, as the collector mindset, I just want to get everything to have it all. So having too much upfront cost is overwhelming. Just like if you're not into a game from the get-go, it can seem like there's so much to learn. It's too hard to jump in now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, this is one of the reasons I wanted to avoid card rarity. So, if you talk to people in the mobile world, they'll tell you that rarity and randomness, RNG, the random number generator, is the way you generate revenue, because players want to collect, and they, I just, there's obviously going to be some RNG in the app. Like you'll unlock, it's free to play, you'll unlock cards as you go. It'll be a little different than the print version. Like you will get a deck to start with, and the deck will be competitive, but as you play, you're going to unlock other cards, and then you start building the deck as you go. If you introduce card rarity, what happens is eventually you introduce broken cards. And when they're broken, then the only way to deal with it is to cycle them out in a set. and it's the thing that frustrates me most about the modern trading card games too, because what I love about it is that there are all these cards out there, and I want to mix and match my own things and collect my own stuff, and then you find out, oh, I can't play that card; it's on the ban list, or I have to play this ad or this thing, and so we really kind of tried really hard to make a game that is balanced. Like any card you play is either balanced in its tactical value, or its restore value to gain health, or its deplete value to do damage. Inevitably, you'll have some cards that are better than others, but only in certain decks. Yeah. Right.
Looking at you, Hearthstone, with your insane power creep.
Yes, power creep. Again, it's a power creep problem.
Yep.
I was actually thinking about that, and you could still have card rarity, but not in the sense of like they change the actual abilities, but almost to a special art one, a rare alternate art one that you could.
I mean, in the mobile version, we'll probably have a seasonal ladder, and so what'll be fun is you play Heroes and Villains with your friends and your buddies, and you introduce them at the tabletop. But then if you're kind of more into it than they are, you can go online and play against the world in seasonal rankings, seasonal tournaments, and you have to give you probably have to give some kind of seasonal exclusive things, and that'll come in the form of alternate art, right?
Yeah.
In the app, you have avatars too. So each power set has a female and a male avatar. So even though super speed, there's the artwork is female character, you can have a male speed character. And so I think I'm interested in, like, I'm not in it for the money. I'm interested in trying to make a game that people that will endure, that people will like to play for a long time, and that can grow. And that's a pretty daunting task. I mean, I don't know if it's going to pan out, right? But I believe in it. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so, okay, so tell us a little bit about just your process of actually trying to work out each individual character villain and working through those decks, and how you might start, and what your process is to go through it.
Yeah. So the process has definitely evolved. But now it's actually, the longer I've been developing the game, the faster I can develop new decks, which is fun. Right now we're even playing with the idea of some, holiday style characters, right? Like maybe like a mutant Easter Bunny character, right? And or holiday cheer, right? A kind of a Santa character that has a whole bunch of, I don't know, Christmas style or holiday style superpowers. But anyway, long story short, the trick is I really wanted to do iconic superpowers, and that meant you can't do what a lot of superheroes are, which is they have a mix of powers. Superman shoots lasers from his eyes, and he's got super strength and super speed and all these other things. I tried to look at iconic powers and break them into, okay, if this was the one thing you did, right, you were super strong, or you had a power armor suit, or you were I don't know, you could control fire. Then I had to build you have to build a whole set around that core iconic power. And each set has a set number of card types, right? You have assaults, which are damaging powers. You have tactics, which either disrupt an opponent's strategy or restore. You've got weapons, and you've got minions, and minions are kind of there. They can do either, right? They give you choices. And so depending on the power set, that would determine how many of those different card types they have. So super strength, it didn't make any sense for me for the super strength character to have minions, right? He's just a big honking character. So he's got a lot of assaults, and his set is built around doing big impactful things and stunning cards, kind of stopping them from happening. Whereas Dino Mastery, which is another set. It's kind of like a Beast Mastery, but all with dinosaurs. That has a lot of minions. It's a minion-based set, and all of his powers, the tactics and the assaults, they have synergies with minions. So the one thing which we did not do is decide to make set-specific things, because I wanted people to be able to mix their powers, right? You want to make a Dino Mastery super strength guy, there's nothing stopping you. It's not weaker, it's just different. And so fun part was, what's your iconic hero and villain ability? And I think we've gotten kind of better at that over time too. Your hero cards or your hero abilities are even more iconic for that particular superpower. The plant mastery guy, his hero ability restores a lot of health for very little energy, and his villain ability actually purges cards from the opponent's stockpile so that they can't restore. So there's this balance of what these cards are. But once we had the core mechanics in place, and you get sort of this thematic vision, it's not that hard to create the list of basically 13 separate pieces of art, 13 separate cards that are going to go the deck. And then I've got a great artist that I work with that he can draw anything. He's a guy in the UK, and he's got a great process, and so he starts. I kind of tell him what I want these powers to look like and what in theory I want them to do, and then he really brings them to life with his art. He has a bunch of options, and we pick together. And then once you've got the art and what the cards do, you're like 80% of the way there, and then you need to play test. And best plans don't always survive the first battle. Things can sound like great ideas, and then when you put them into practice, they're overpowered or underpowered, or they just don't work right. They don't feel right. I really want thematic mechanics, like we talked about. So if you're playing Dark Magic, you work a lot with the stockpile. You bring minions back to play. You can restore other cards in the stockpile, and you can force players to discard. Those are all kind of thematic, things. You feel like you're playing a Dark Magic character. And that's hard to do too. Sometimes you plan a card and it just doesn't feel right. The name, the art, and what the card does has to feel right. And that's what I love about card games. Like I love chess, but every knight is a knight, every pawn is a pawn. With a card game, you have it gives you this feeling that you're part of a universe. And maybe a little bit of that role-playing feeling, like you're in another character in another world. It's all together.
I mean, I can definitely attest to that. It was the first character I played as was the speed character, and it did feel with that character, it's a lot of like putting down some cards, and then you just combo a whole bunch of energy that you're using that one card gives you. You use energy, but then you get it back. You use another card, get it back, and then you can just do a whole bunch of damage really quickly. And then one of the other player, Kirby, she had the dark magic, and she was like just stealing Keegan's cards, and it was I mean, we had a lot of fun around the table, like laughing and waiting for certain cards to come out, and like, I know I want to steal this one, and
I mean, that's for fun. The point is for people to have fun, right? So like when I was watching you guys in the video, you guys all had a lot of great ideas, and you pointed out things that could be better in the rule book and everything else. But what really made me happy is I could just tell you had fun with it. And as a designer, it's interesting. I mean, sometimes little things make a big difference. Like those cheesy sayings. Like
those were hysterical.
I mean, I didn't add those until a year ago, maybe. And talk about that with people, I would say, like, what do you think? Should we add like a comic book, like a cheesy saying? And everybody, would be like, well, that'd be cool, but like, what would the character sound like? And then should they all have different personalities? And these things are hard to implement, right? And so there's a tendency to just go, oh God, I'm doing enough. But once we implemented it, like I've got this massive spreadsheet with all the cards and the funny saying and the what the card does and the energy cost.
Yeah. People
will play the app and they'll say it out loud. They'll be like, "Oh, I'm crushing you," They'll just laugh. It's fun.
Wait. So I gotta ask: Does the app, when you actually play the card, will it say it? Will it actually do it?
It'll say it. Yeah. Why don't just to give you a sense, right? I'll just show you here really quick. So you open the app. And there's like a vampire mutation character. Sorry.
Okay.
If there's like a big deck editor, and it's gonna be hard to see. But if you go hit play, and you go in and you're sort of playing against the character, you have these avatars, and as you go, your avatar will say something. So I'll show you in a second. So, okay, now it's my turn. I'll just like play this card and activate it. And you see, she says, the little bubble pops up and, you get to do your thing. So, and then she'll tell you, she's like, oh, I'm out of, your avatar will, so obviously I'll get you guys a link to the game so you can see it. But it was designed with this idea that, okay, like, I'm playing in this digital world, it's fun, I got my avatar, but frankly, if it goes to the table, I feel like that character, and I can say these things out loud, and eventually, if the app goes, I mean, you can do things like fund individual character voices. So, every time you hear somebody say it with like cinematic quality. But then you go, oh God, I have a male and female version of each. So then I got to do a male voice for all and a female voice for all. And then you have to get the development team to implement it. And you could go to rabbit holes quick. Right.
Right. So there is also kind of part of the game is multiple different, was it like, formats, yeah, right, where you could either do just free for all or a team thing, and I think we personally enjoyed the like Heroes versus Villains 2v2. It, for us, it felt a little more engaging and it didn't take as long, whereas just free for all felt like it took a while. But I think I like this idea of the different formats, but you can actually bring them to competition and almost do it where most TCGs, right, it's you versus an opponent, right? But now you can have like team tournaments going on, and that seems like a lot of fun.
I think the game really shines in team play. Like it was designed at its core to be a one-on-one game, right? So it's funny to me because what you guys did, a lot of people do. They're like, well, it's a new game, let's just do a free-for-all. Yeah. And I kind of cringe because I know free-for-all, right? It's kind of brutal. You can get ganged up on, and I attack you, and I change my mind, I attack you, and like I think Keegan, you might have said like there was this period where you were drawing off the top, and there wasn't a lot to do, and maybe it's because you got ganged up on two different players, and they countered your cards and they purged your cards, and then they discarded your cards, and so everything kind of. I think free for all is actually a very advanced form of play, and you got to be willing to kind of just know that you're going to gang up on each other. The team play is really fun because you build your deck, your teammate builds the deck. Maybe you build decks to complement each other, and then you get to go Keegan and I get to choose. We're going to take you out, and then we're going to go for the other guy. Or if the other guy's a bigger problem, we talk and we pivot our strategy and decide to take him out first.
Yeah, I think that was literally like we started playing and I immediately I just texted Keegan as we started. I'm like, just go for max 100%. Just take him out right now, and then we can do a 2v1, and it'll be a lot easier. But then of course this butthead just sits on all his on his cards as the strength guy and waiting for him to do some damage, and then I get killed off.
Yep. No, it's funny. I mean, it creates a lot of good stories. I mean, but there's so much you can do with the game. There's a super boss format where one player smashes two decks together. They've got like a almost a 50 card deck, and you get an extra energy. You get 5 energy a turn, and then you play against 2 players. And that one's really interesting. It's hard to beat. And frankly, there are draft formats, which, you have to be like competitive card players love draft because you actually build your deck as you go, right? You go around and build a customized deck, and then you take that into kind of a tournament. And I think ultimately it's meant to be like a tournament table game. You all get together, the rules. There's maybe 6, 8 of you with a couple boxes, and you play for 3-4 hours, and people get knocked out, and then somebody declares themselves the winner, right? I mean, it's
and so I guess with kind of Keegan and I love kind of doing drafting. Any kind of game that has that ability. Keegan and I always kind of experiment with different drafting styles that we play against each other. I guess that kind of, when you said that, made me think about like specific, almost like you said, like that 2-pack. You said the two hero pack. If there's actual almost like neutral packs that lend itself better to building decks, right, rather than it just simply being its own deck by itself.
Yeah. So there's a actually, because I really liked your idea of the neutral card. We designed this power cosmic deck, which is the super multicolored character. He's like kind of like a Silver Surfer, but you see just tons of rainbow energy all the time. And he's his own galactic style, and he gets stronger when he's mixed with other superpowers.
Okay.
So he started out as just standalone cards, kind of like neutral cards that anybody would mix.
Yeah.
But then he grew into his own thing, like, because some people were like, well, I just want to play the power cosmic guy, right? Yeah. And that card's an advanced, that deck is an advanced deck because inevitably you have to mix your cards into the opponent's deck, and you have to steal his cards, and that's when your deck really shines. And so you can imagine, really competitive players, you might see Power Cosmic mixed in because if they're playing 3 or 4 or 5 color deck, some of those cards are really great, right?
Yeah.
So neutral cards is definitely an option. You could imagine like just some really like kind of standard cards like I don't know, police, and machine gun and things that anybody can do. So sky's the limit, right? As long as you put a name for the card and what it might do, and it's balanced, it's doable.
I guess, and then have you thought about coming out with purely just neutral card decks that can be used specifically for mixing and matching, or like building decks out, I guess, rather than being them like dedicated towards a certain hero?
Yeah. Kind of, I think. A lot of the mechanics revolve around the fact that there's a superpower symbol, or and so if you were to generate a deck that didn't have superpower symbols, right, that can have kind of trickle down implications. What we did do in the app is develop a the first set, it's like your starter set that you get is going to be called, I think it's going to be called Hidden Destiny. And you're just a regular person, you know, like somebody coming home from school, like there's a teenager or whatever, and you have to fight back with just your sort of will to survive. No real superpowers yet. So he's got, you might have a minion like your German Shepherd dog that jumps out and saves you, and you might like a card like that basically is run, right? Another card that's hide, card that's punch. Very, very basic cards that are not still balanced, but probably not as powerful as your superpowered cards. And so the idea there is you steadily your powers start emerging as you play the app. You unlock fire control cards and you work them into your deck. You unlock dark magic cards and you work them into your deck. So you grow into this superpowered character. So those cards are probably the closest we have. You know, that set will be its own standalone set, which eventually could be made available in print too, for people looking for a little bit of a challenge. Like, you know, I'm going to be maybe just at a little bit of a disadvantage, but I'm a better player. Let's see if I can reach.
Just,
all right.
Just a rub it in deck.
Yeah. Right.
So that kind of then I guess brings up the question about the app then. How will that work with players who, let's just say 6 months after the campaign launches, and you've had people that have been playing now and they kind of have a deck built up. For someone new coming in, how will that then potentially them, like you see with like and Keegan can probably tell me a little more with Hearthstone, where somebody might just have a ridiculous deck because they bought it all already, right? How is that going to work out with new players versus players that have already played?
Yeah, so you know, players that have been playing longer they'll inevitably have a larger card pool to access, and they'll be more experienced, so their win percentages will be higher. I think we've mitigated a lot of that with just the balance inherent in the game. So, like I said, even this Hidden Destiny power set, you know, the cards are still good, right? They're not bad. Like, even though you're punching, you're not doing a fire blast. You've got situations that I mean, you're still going to be able to win with that deck if you make better decisions. You know, for example, 2 energy assault depletes 3 cards of an opponent's, right? And some sets have different synergies. So if you're playing dark magic, it might deplete 3 and you draw 1 and discard 1, or you deplete 3 and you make a player discard, or you deplete 3 and bring a minion back to play. But even the weakest cards still deplete 3 for 2 energy. They don't deplete 2, right? So you might have more combos and more things you can pull off if you get the luck of the draw, but the big power of the card, the energy gain, the deplete, the restore, is very much in line and common because we don't have card rarity. And it's very apparent in the deck is your life rule when a card feels overpowered, and we just change it.
Gotcha. Okay. And I guess so. I obviously then that's even like the app almost is quite a bit different. At least how you're starting to come across your deck. You're not going to already just start with a speed deck, a fire deck. You kind of build and decide where you want to go.
You do
with the deck.
Yeah, I mean there will be you know, there's a currency in the app right now designed called Cosmic Dust, which you unlock at play, right? And even if you lose, you earn some Cosmic Dust, and then eventually you spend that Cosmic Dust to unlock powers. And you know, for players that don't want to wait and they just like want the fire control character, we'll probably give them a way to just, buy a bunch of cosmic dust and buy that power. Right. Okay. So, in the app world, you're trying to balance free-to-play players with the whales that are willing to spend money right away.
Yeah.
Frankly, if I play an indie game that I really enjoy and I think they did a great job, because I know the pain, I'll buy the starter pack or something, spend $10-$20.
Yeah.
But I want the game to be fun to both players. I don't want, the goal is that with any enduring game is you really like feel like you've earned what you've gotten, but it hasn't been boring to earn it. And also the players that drop money don't have an unfair advantage. And I do not believe you have an unfair advantage, in our game, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. I mean, it all sounds exciting, and I can't wait to see the Kickstarter drop and see all those exciting new things that we didn't get to quite see right away. We only got those 6, and then the I think it had the playmat, right?
Yeah.
I think it had the playmat already, and
that's right. Yeah, the print version will have the 6 sets and the playmat, and which is just 2 playmats, which are the starter package, and then Kickstarter backers will get kind of exclusive beta access to the game, to the digital version, and so that'll be fun. They can test all 20 of those card sets, and there will be different cosmic dust rewards for Kickstarter backers. So if you go buy the print game, you'll get some cosmic dust, which when the beta launches, you can then use to maybe unlock some extra cards, right? Some extra cards than if you were just starting from scratch.
Right.
Again, not an unfair exclusive advantage, just a kind of maybe a head start, really. And inevitably, if you're kind of playing the game every day and you're playing it a lot, you're going to outpace people that dropped, I don't know, $10 or because we don't have card rarity.
Yeah.
Like, what'll happen in a lot of mobile games is things are locked behind paywalls.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, we have this overpowered card, so we can't give it away. So we'll reward players that buy it, and then you've got this pay to win mentality, which is, I can see why people do it as a developer, but I refuse.
Yeah. Well, great. We look forward to it, and hopefully we get to see you at Gen Con, and
be awesome.
I mean, by that time you'll be done with the Kickstarter. You'll have a successful Kickstarter, and maybe we'll actually be able to play some of the those additional characters in person a little bit and check them out. But yeah, I think some of the other Kickstarter stuff is there's going to be some fun little miniature figures for the heroes.
Steven did, right? He went and developed minifigures, which are just awesome, right? In the Playtop environment, it's super fun to have your minifigure out there as you're playing. Give a different feel.
Well, great. We appreciate you coming on. Is there, I guess we've been talking about this whole time, but feel free to, if you want to plug anything, let people know exactly where to find you when Kickstarters drop in.
So I don't think we've finalized the date on the Kickstarter. I think it's coming in the next 2 to 3 months, and the app is really nearing ready to be launched for beta. I'll probably in a couple builds, I'll get you guys an invite, and you can play if you wanted to do another one of these after you play the app. We certainly can. But I do want to thank Netty Games for setting this up, and it's just a great group of people. I have a lot of faith that they're going to make the print version a success, and I'm just really excited about where it can go. I just want to see. I want to get it out into the world.
Sure. Where can people? Do you have place that people can follow so that they can keep up with progress of what's going on?
Yeah. So we have a website, antigengames.net.
Mhm.
And you can go see all the card art and read the game rules, and then you can also register for our mailing list.
Okay.
And then once we start ramping up our social media campaign, you'll be the first to get updates and previews and everything else. So yeah, check us out.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. We'll keep in touch and hopefully see you at Gen Con.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.